Good evening. My name is Alexander Hagan. I am the CEO of a small, medium-sized tech company in Silicon Valley, and I wanted to give you a sneak preview of what I found out about the ownership of the media. So first of all, this is a basic diagram. Walt Disney owns ABC, and let's see here now. Okay, Sumner Redstone, born Sumner Rothstein, owns National Amusements, which has a 70% interest roughly in these other things, theater chains, Viacom, CBS, Comedy Central. So what you'll notice is that there's a bigger company that does things outside of broadcast journalism, such as Walt Disney. So in order to get control of the media company, you have to fight ownership of an even larger entity. So in order to get access to have editorial control over one of the five main news outlets, you have to battle a company with a market value of $36 billion. In other words, it is fortified by being owned by Walt Disney. It cannot be picked off. And with CBS, to a lesser extent, that is also true. CBS is bound up with a bundle of companies. Although I'm not sure how hard it would be to pull it out, but all of these companies have voting stock and non-voting stock as well. So you don't have to own that much stock necessarily if you have the voting stock. And it can be harder to see in the financial statements for me so far. Then we have General Electric, which owns NBC, MSNBC. So if you wanted to obtain the value of MSNBC's 5-hour lineup of talk shows, which might only be a $2 billion a year franchise, you'd have to do battle with and wrest it from a $157 billion market cap company. And so Comcast has gone in with GE on NBC Universal, which is an online streaming service where their content is from all of the years of footage is sort of licensed for streaming by Comcast. Then we have Time Warner, $37 billion market cap, and they own CNN. And then we have News Corp, who owns Fox News and Wall Street Journal. So what you'll notice in general is that any news outlet is, first of all, you have to buy the entire network, and in order to own the news outlet of the network. It's sort of a objective of owning a media outlet is to own the news component. You cannot get the news component of NBC as a standalone product. So what we're talking about here is that these units have been consolidated. So to get access to a $13 billion arm, which is what these seem to average out to be, you have to invest into be able to take over a $40 billion company. So that's part one. And now each of these companies is going to be associated with a few personalities that are the driving forces of these editorial policies. And the reason I'm motivated to do this is because basically because of the Ron Paul not being mentioned by all the networks in a certain fashion, it was brazenly obvious that there was some agenda here. You can't consistently ignore someone in the polls like he's an unpopular high school student without drawing certain inferences that there's some common goal here to give him. See, media attention is money. If you give a candidate media attention, it's more valuable than advertising. So it's like gold. So by denying him airtime, they're denying his campaign resources. So why is that so? So then we're looking at ownership to try to figure it out, and there's plenty there, and we'll get to that. But here's an interesting thing. So basically, I dumped all of these, where is it? All of these different institutional shareholders for each of these companies, and then I tagged the company. And then I sorted by group. So here we have Bank of New York Mellon, 1.42% of General Electric, 2.36% of CBS, 1.19% of News Corp. They're the only one I've seen. So they have a nice little piece in all of them. BlackRock, same deal. They have 2.5%, regardless of the size of the company. They have 2.5% of the United States media. punto, period. And remember, I'm just totaling it from these companies. There are about 100 media companies total, but these are clearly the big dominant ones. So then most of them do a play of either doing News Corp by itself, and they seem to be often non-US, or they do a diversification across it with a certain percentage of that company as their position. College retirement equities. But the BlackRock is the serious ones here. Bank of New York Mellon, they've got positions of almost 3 billion. BlackRock positions of like 5 billion. Capital World Investors 2.5 billion. Dodge and Cox Stock Fund like 6 billion. FMR LLC about 6 billion. And so the total investments. Okay, and then here's some other guys. Invesco. They have very little compared to those other guys. JP Morgan, we have 2 entries here that amount to 2 billion in Time Warner, CNN, and CBS. And here's another major one, Northern Trust Corporation. They have 2 billion in GE, 800 million in ABC. T.ROWE Price, we hear them on the news all the time. There they are, 6 billion. Spider, which is an index fund, which means that basically people can just buy a basket of all 500 of these exchange-traded companies, and these are part of that basket. So the Spider has a position of almost 2.5 billion in this area. State Farm, State Street Corporation, whoever these guys are, this is very interesting. 7, 8, 9. So you see, this is very good stuff here. Here's some more institutional investment. Vanguard, standard mutual funds. Now, Vanguard has a huge exposure into these things. So it'll be interesting to see whether they're affecting editorial policy. So I think that really is extraordinarily interesting, don't you? The mechanics of disinformation, part 1, to be continued.